5 common NF traits that annoy NTs endlessly. So thank you for tuning in. A couple disclaimers before we dive into the video today. Number one, this is totally open discussion, all right? I'm just sharing my perspective as an INFJ to you. I'm going to leave the comments open. I want to hear your take on it. Let's all be respectful of each other in the comments. All right. The second disclaimer is that, not all NFs do this and not all NTs are annoyed by it. So yes, I'm speaking in generalizations, but there are always exceptions to the rule, but the exception does not disprove the rule. The fact remains that if an NT is not pointing out to you, NF, that they are annoyed by what you're doing, they're probably just being courteous, but more likely and more often than not, it's pretty annoying for them when we exhibit these traits. And then lastly, I'm not dogging or trashing the NF temperament. With that said, we do have a tendency to do these things. And just because an NT is annoyed or frustrated by them doesn't mean that the NT hates you or even dislikes you. They just think differently and they have a different way of functioning. Their cognitive functions and the general way that they communicate, they're just different, and there's nothing wrong with that. But don't take offense to the things that I'm going to share today. Okay, annoying NF trait number 1 is overly relying on feelings and emotions to try to make a point, okay? A lot of times NF temperament types can commit logical fallacies, which is essentially an error in your reasoning that will undermine the logic of your argument. Now, there's nothing wrong with using emotion and passion and feeling when communicating. NTs actually appreciate that. Just make sure that when you're trying to make a logical or a rational point, you don't commit a logical fallacy, because it really annoys the NT temperament when you do that. Okay, number 2 is being overly idealistic. The NF temperament is also known as the idealist temperament, all right? So we are going to be idealistic, and there's nothing wrong with that. And again, the NT temperament can appreciate idealism. The problem arises when we do number 3, which is ignore facts. Even though all of the personality types in the NT temperament are intuitives, that's your INTJ, INTP, ENTJ, and ENTP, the fact remains they do tend to still be more practical than the NF temperament. Not always, but very often. And so even though the NT temperament are intuitive personality types, they're listening for facts. They're going to have a tendency to value practical, factual information even more than the NF temperament would, perhaps even especially more. When we become overly idealistic and we ignore facts, it's annoying to the NT temperament. Okay, before I share with you numbers 4 and 5, if you're getting value out of this video, please hit the like button and go ahead and subscribe now for more entertainment and insight for the intuitive types. Okay, common annoying NF trait number 4 is sensitivity to criticism. There's a common misconception that when an NT type is giving criticism, that they're doing it because they want to trash or bash you or insult you or put you down. And the NF temperament can sometimes receive constructive criticism in a way that is meant negatively. Now, I will be quick to say that if the NT type that you're dealing with is a toxic, narcissistic type, okay, trust your intuition. Just because they're offering criticism does not necessarily mean that it's constructive. But more often than not, and I would say in the vast majority of cases, when an NT type is giving criticism, they do mean it in the best possible sense, and they are trying to be productive and constructive with their criticism. Oversensitivity to criticism is frustrating for NT types when they are having a conversation or debating with you, because a lot of them, like for example, the ENTP has tertiary extroverted feeling, right? And so they are aware of what you're feeling. It's just that their feeling process is not as developed as, like, say, an INFJ or an ENFJ's would be. Not that their feeling process isn't accurate. It's just not as developed. And so an ENTP is focusing more on their introverted thinking when they're talking to you. And it's like, if you're being overly sensitive when they're trying to communicate what they're trying to say, it's like it forces them to have to stop and focus on your feelings for a moment, and they'll do it. And yes, they want to be courteous and considerate, but they just want to articulate the rationale of the insight that they're trying to communicate to you. And it's frustrating if the NF is constantly, becoming emotional and gets sensitive to the criticism that the NT is giving most likely constructively. Okay, annoying trait number 5 is a reluctance to engage in healthy debate. I think the NF temperament a lot of times will shy away from a debate if they feel that they will lose the debate. I also think that the NF temperament a lot of times, because they want cooperation and harmony above all, they will avoid debates if they sense that it's going to lead to arguments or combativeness. But because of that reluctance, that fear of an argument breaking out, something like that, or, you know, the NF feeling inferior in their cognitive function ability, thinking abilities, because of these things, it's annoying. And so, you know, I would say NFs, go ahead and take the leap, be willing to engage in a healthy debate with your NT counterparts, and, you know, just let them know up front. Just say, hey, I'm happy to have a healthy debate with you, but I don't want to argue. I don't want to fight. I don't want to quarrel. I want us to still be friends at the end of this. And NTs will appreciate that. And in all likelihood, they want the very same thing you do. We're very different. We have a lot of similarities. I think that we all want to get along, and we all want to, you know, do the best that we can to have harmony. We just go about conversation and interaction differently. And there's nothing wrong with that. What are your thoughts on this? Leave them in the comments. By the way, I wrote a song about every intuitive type. Check this playlist out right now. Take care.